Come on now, fellas! We've got to answer the bell. Now let's go!
Hello, everyone. Welcome into Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Chris Yow, joined by Mo Patton, as you can see by the little pendants there. We have pennants. We won the pennant, Mo. It's easy to
more, and we'll be a dynasty, right?
That's right. Yeah. If we, depending on how many you win, I guess you don't have. It doesn't matter if you win them if you can create them, I guess. So, anyway,
they're a little bit more legit if you win them, though.
Yeah, you'd like to think. Man, what a good show we've got coming up today, and what a fantastic day it is outside right now.
Again, I think we're going to be able to lather, rinse, repeat that for pretty much the rest of the week.
Well,
and I'm here for it.
I understand that we are potentially in a little bit of a tornado watch. So, yeah, there's that.
Well, I'll be in a gym for a while this evening, so hopefully
get under the bleachers. Yeah. Whatever you got to do, just stay safe out there. But yes, the weather is going to be great for the rest of the week. I'm looking forward to it very much so, and looking forward to today's show because we have Heather Williams who's going to talk NASCAR with us as she does each and every Wednesday. We'll talk about the Busch Clash. We'll talk about Kyle Busch, who apparently is facing some Mexican prison time, which is nuts.
Which is a little different than typical prison time.
Yeah, no, it's not the same.
So I hear.
Yeah, it's not the same from what I understand.
Yeah.
We'll also talk to Drew Hill. The Grizzlies get a win last night.
Hey.
How about that? Couldn't believe it. But not only did they get a win, but yesterday there was a quote from John Morant in a Daily Memphian article by Drew Hill about the Grizzlies being the most hated team in the NBA. And so we'll talk to him about why, what he was talking about with Ja around that quote and what he thinks about the Grizzlies.
It's true.
Yeah. Is it true? We'll find.
True?
We'll ask Drew. I bet he's got an idea.
I like what you did there. Is it true?
We'll ask Drew. There you go. And some women's basketball news today. Dawn Staley's tired of.
She's done.
She's tired of GENO'S baby back BS. And the WNBA has a little scandal going on. A little scandal in the WNBA. I love to hear it.
It kind of legitimizes them, doesn't it?
Once you have a scandal, you're pretty much legit.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think. So hey,
So I'm looking forward
It's
to
kind
it.
of like Georgia. When they're getting kids arrested, that's when they're back.
That's right.
So,
there you go.
yeah.
So a lot to get into today. We're gonna dive in here in just a few minutes. But before we do that and talk about LeBron and all of the other things that we have to get to, we have to tell you yesterday's results and give you tonight's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Girls high school basketball action on Tuesday night. Hillsborough defeated Brentwood 49-46. It was Nolensville down in Columbia Central 48-37. Creekwood with a 45-31 win over White House. Richland defeated Culleoka 63-39. It was Ensworth 56, Brentwood Academy 51. Sycamore with a 55-37 win over Fairview. Lipscomb Academy edged Father Ryan 41-40. Greenbrier edged Portland 34-33. Wayne County undefeated top-ranked Wayne County with a 75-27 win over Hampshire. Hendersonville edged Gallatin 35-34. Wow. Houston County 72, Joe Burns 35. Huntland with a 59-42 win over Eagleville. Overton 51, Centennial 48. Antioch 48, Knowledge Academies 8, Lawrence County 46, Marshall County 25, Lebanon with a 57-28 win over Mount Juliet. Liberty Creek defeated Montgomery Central 62-37. It was Loretto 68, Lewis County 24, Beach with a 70-31 win over McGavock. Murfreesboro Central defeated Community 38-28. Oakland with a 75-63 win over Rockvale. Tullahoma in a low-scoring affair defeated Page 36-32. Harpeth Hall with a 57-19 win over Pope Prep. Ravenwood 49, Summit 31. Rossview 67, Kenwood 25. Siegel 58, Riverdale 28. Stewart's Creek 76, Smyrna 20. Clark 74, Springfield 33. And Lincoln County 65, Spring Hill 51. You can find coverage of that one at mainstreetmurray.com.
Christ Presbyterian down St. Cecilia 56-38. It was Station Camp 71, Hunters Lane 23. Summertown big over Giles County 65-26. Green Hill 61, Wilson Central 27, and Zion Christian 45-27 winners over Lancaster Christian. In district tournament play, Division II Class A District 3 quarterfinals, Columbia Academy down BGA 64-50.
Behind 35 points from Matty Lewis.
Take that. And
coverage of that one also at mainstreetmurray.com.
Right. And MTCS Downs Franklin Road Academy 58-27. In District 4 play, it was Good Pasture 40, DCA 37. Ezo Harding 55-20 winners over Friendship Christian, and Clarksville Academy 84-47 winners over Davidson Academy.
Boys basketball on Tuesday night. Hillsborough with a 51-37 win over Brentwood. Hopkinsville, Kentucky defeated Clarksville Northwest 80-37. Nolensville with a 54-47 win over Columbia Central. Creekwood 76, White House 42. Richland defeats Culleoka 64-42. Brentwood Academy downs Ensworth 55-40. Fairview with a 70-63 win over Sycamore. Lipscomb Academy 47, Father Ryan 40. Martin Luther King 74, Glencliff 54. Greenbrier 51, Portland 38. Wayne County defeats Hampshire 84-43. White House Heritage 50, Harpeth 47. Gallatin with a 62-58 win over Hendersonville. Hillwood defeats Hume Fogg 69-44. Eagleville with a 70-69 win over Huntland. Franklin 53
wins the season series for now.
Defeats Independence, top-ranked Independence for now, 53-52. Centennial with a 69-26 win over Overton. Antioch defeats Knowledge Academies 48-28. Laverne 60, Cane Ridge 53. Lawrence County with a 75-64 win over Marshall County. East Nashville defeats Lead Academy 86-56. Lebanon with a 51-47 win over Mount Juliet. Liberty Creek 66, Montgomery Central 40. Loretto 72, Lewis County 37. Beach with a 69-43 win over McGavock. Murfreesboro Central downs Community 66-56. Oakland 68, Rockvale 62, and Page 72, Tullahoma 49.
Montgomery Bell Academy edged Pope Prep 61-58. It was Grace Knoxville falling to Providence Christian 66-46. Ravenwood down Summit 72-35, and Rossview a winner over Kenwood 62-56. It was Riverdale 57, Siegel 54. Smyrna 67-59 winners over Stewart's Creek. Clarksville edged Springfield 49-48. Spring Hill gets a 61-56 win over Lincoln County. It was Station Camp 57, Hunters Lane 50. Giles County edging Summertown 65-64. They like the 1-point wins over teams from Lawrence County, apparently. Green Hill 57-41 winners over Wilson Central, and Lancaster Christian 63, Zion Christian 52. In NBA action, it was the Grizzlies 104, Bulls 89, and the Preds did not look very good last night. Golden Knights 5, Preds 1, and I'm not sure that Nashville had more than 5 shots on goal. They did not hold the puck very often.
Goodness gracious. Well, that'll get you beat by 4 goals. In high school basketball tonight, double headers, 6 o'clock starts. Pearl Cone at East Nashville, Antioch at Laverne, and Dixon County at Kenwood. And boys basketball postseason action, Division 2A District 3 tournament. These are 6 o'clock starts. Middle Tennessee Christian at Battleground Academy, Franklin Grace at Providence Christian, University School of Nashville at Columbia Academy, and Franklin Road Academy at Webb. In D2 District 4, Ezel Harding is at Davidson Academy. Donaldson Christian goes to Clarksville Academy. Good Pasture hosts Mount Juliet Christian, and Nashville Christian hosts Friendship Christian. Junior college basketball doubleheader action beginning at 5:30. Ball State is at Dyersburg State, and I'd say must-see TV, but I don't know if you can find it or not. But at the Web, Southwest Tennessee is at Columbia State. 5:30 start for the women, men to follow, and there's never a dull moment when the Salukis and the Chargers meet. So men's basketball action tonight at the 4-year collegiate level. Tennessee comes to Memorial Gym, taking on the Commodores of Vanderbilt. That's a 6 o'clock start on the SEC network and on ESPN Plus. The ESPN Plus, 6 o'clock. Belmont at Springfield, Missouri, taking on the Bears of Missouri State, and that is your rundown.
All right, we go to today's top story, which is the most talked about story of the day. Kind of hard not to.
Yeah, it'd be tough to ignore this one, I think.
LeBron James around midnight Eastern last night broke the NBA's all-time scoring record, previously held by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Who looked none too happy.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Oh yeah.
Did you see the post-game show on TNT when Kareem and Shaq were talking?
No.
So while Shaq was a Laker, Kareem basically ignored him, just straight up ignored him, and didn't – kind of like what you think you see with this LeBron thing. I don't know what the animosity level is between Kareem and LeBron. I just don't know.
I don't know if there is any animosity, and Kareem is just a complicated dude.
And always has been.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's just a complicated dude. I mean, doesn't say a whole lot. Very cerebral, very insightful, but very to himself. So going back to,
well, basically, Shaq said the best thing that happened to me during my career in LA was you not talking to me, because all I wanted to do was impress you. And they basically talked about how, they didn't have beef with one another or anything like that. It was just,
that's pretty cool.
So I thought that was neat.
Yeah.
And so, I just think Kareem's just a weird guy and not weird in that he's not like a lot of other former superstars and want the limelight and want to be interject themselves into
everything.
Mm-hmm. Right. So there's a difference between maybe animosity versus
I'm just keeping my distance.
Yeah. So I don't know how Kareem feels about it necessarily. A lot of folks just didn't want LeBron to have the record because it's LeBron. And I'm curious because I saw this question. Where does LeBron rank all time as greatest Laker?
Oh, goodness.
Because the caveat,
as all-time greatest Laker, I don't think he's any higher than 5th.
yeah. And
Because, I mean, I'm not sure the order, but obviously Kobe, Shaq, Kareem, Magic.
those are Lakers.
Yeah.
LeBron isn't really.
LeBron is not a Laker.
LeBron wears a Lakers jersey.
Right.
And he's probably the greatest player to ever wear a Lakers jersey. That's it. Look. I think he's in the conversation for greatest player of all time. Now, that's just me.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a conversation to be had, but and again, where do you put Jerry West? Where do you put Elgin Baylor?
Behind LeBron.
Well, I mean, I don't think you can penalize those guys for playing in a different era, though.
No, and that's, I tell people that all the time. You cannot talk about, is LeBron James overrated or underrated as opposed to, Wilt Chamberlain or whatever. The fact
Where are you going to put Wilt?
I mean, the fact is this. The fact is that Wilt Chamberlain played in a completely different era. If you put LeBron, who LeBron is right now, in that era, he would dominate the game. But if you put Wilt
in this
era with all the technology and all the training that you get going through, I think he would still dominate the game.
If you can keep him away from those 10,000 women.
Well, that probably a little easier these days.
Technology.
Technology would have ruined Wilt, unfortunately. I bet he's glad he played when he played.
Two interesting tidbits that I saw out of this, or one that I dug up, but 7 of the top 10 all-time scorers in the NBA played for the Lakers at one time or another. Now, I'm not sure who those 7 are, but I believe we probably mentioned
several
most of them.
Yeah.
2, LeBron surpassed Kareem in apparently 150 fewer games.
Mm-hmm. Which is what, 2 seasons?
Roughly, yeah. But maybe 3 with load management.
Yeah, well.
But LeBron hit 2,233 threes. The three-pointer didn't come in until halfway through Kareem's career. He hit 1. So I don't know.
I mean, I don't think Kareem was going to be shooting.
He wasn't going to be putting up a whole lot of them, but still. I mean,
but it would have taken LeBron a lot longer to
had
get
there
there
not been a 3-point line.
If for 10 years he didn't have a 3-point line.
Right. So,
and I think that's a fair point. I think that has to be made if you're going to make the argument. Well, he did it in fewer games.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but
he had a 3-point line,
and that's kind of. The fact is, how about this? Pete Maravich didn't have a 3-point line. If Pete Maravich had a 3-point line, we'd still be talking about who the record holder is.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I mean, so there's a lot of nuance that goes into it. I thought it was an interesting conversation with where does he rank as a Laker, because I don't think he is in the top. He's probably in the top 6 because I think Jerry West is probably 5th.
Mm-hmm.
As a Laker. And now again, I think LeBron is right there in the top 3 conversation with greatest player of all time. Obviously, I think Michael's up there, and I think Bill Russell's up there. I think those are my top 3 of all time. And again, 3 different eras.
Mm-hmm. 3 different eras, 3 different players.
And so for me, it could be 1A, B, and C. Because again, it's hard to compare the 2.
And I'll tell you, I never was a Kobe fan, and I don't want to sound hypocritical in his passing, but you can't argue with what he did on the floor either. No. I mean, maybe he's in that conversation with Jordan, Russell, LeBron as well.
The one player who doesn't get as much talk and greatest player of all time. And as far as being well-rounded and can do anything in the game, Larry Bird. He could literally do anything.
I think Larry was so, and again, was not a Larry Bird fan because I wasn't a Celtics fan. But you have to give him his respect. I think two things about Bird. I think he made it look so freaking easy.
Easy. Everything.
And there was no flash to it. And you'd look up and he had 38. And 10 assists.
And 10 assists.
That's rebounds.
It's the dishes that got me, because it just felt like at any given point, he could find you from anywhere on the court. And it may not be a chest pass or a bounce pass that he got.
No. He was creative with it.
Over the head or around the neck. He was going to find some way to get you the basketball
if you were open,
unimpeded.
Absolutely. And I just think it was the lack of flash that keeps him out of that discussion. Maybe.
I mean, and
his physical condition late in his career, with the back and that kind of thing. And he wasn't, and very few people are at the top of their game at the end of their career. But I mean, it felt like he kind of fell off a little bit late with the back.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that he couldn't have played till the late 90s, 2000.
Yeah.
I mean, 20 years like a LeBron. But again, if the training and technology of the 2000s were available in 1980, Larry probably could have played for 25 years
and been dominant.
So I just think he's one player that doesn't get mentioned in that probably should, just because of his ability to do anything and everything on the court.
Right.
Anyway, let's take a break. Congrats to LeBron. But we're going to talk some NASCAR now, because the Clash happened. It's a thing. And we're going to get to it right after this on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint with Heather Williams right after this. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com. Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris, Yow and Mo Patton here with you on this Wednesday edition. Goodness gracious.
Hey, don't make this week any longer.
Listen, it's been a crazy week already. We've got a lot to get to and looking forward to it as we are talking a little NASCAR. The Busch Clash was this weekend, and it's going to be a lot of fun throughout the rest of the year as we talk to Heather Williams on Wednesdays, and we do that now. Heather, what's up? Nice jacket.
Oh, you like that? Yeah, I'm at work. It's cold. It's I was using it as a blanket on the earlier call. So
I hear you. I like that.
Always cold. It's always cold inside the television station. I was listening to the end of your last segment, and I find it cute because there's one goat. I mean, there's one goat.
She finds it cute.
It's not LeBron.
Listen, I'm in the Michael Jordan camp, but I think you have to give LeBron the respect that he's earned as just in the era he's played in. He's so big. He's so strong. He's done everything. So I give him respect as like the fourth best player of all time. Oof. I don't know about all that.
Who behind?
Well, definitely Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
probably Magic, and maybe Kobe.
Wow.
Probably
See, I think
my-
Magic's career being shortened as much as it was really hurt. But I mean, and
right. But when I
obviously you go back and you watch him in his prime,
Mhm.
he was the best player in the league.
I think
when
you
I
No
have
think
question.
about when I think about greatest of all times or greatness in players in any sport, you know, that's why I think that, just for instance, Tom Brady has the greatest resume of all time, but he's not necessarily the greatest football player of all time or even the best quarterback. Because when I think of GOATs, I think, what did you do to develop the game that nobody before you was able to do? And while everything that LeBron did was great, when Jordan did it, nobody had ever done it before. You know, that's why on my list, I have Dr. J probably higher than a lot of people did, because when he started flying and dunking and doing those things, nobody had seen that before. That wasn't a thing. Like he paved the way for Jordan, who paved the way for LeBron. And so LeBron is great as what he's done, but what has LeBron done that nobody before him did?
Nothing.
Right? Because if you're talking about playing multiple positions and being able to, I mean, that's why I have Magic so high. He played 5 positions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
when I think of Magic, I go back to his rookie year when Kareem was hurt and he stepped into the post
to the 5
and scored 42 points in the championship series. I mean, that's and when you talk about guys who have done things that nobody ever did, I mean, when did you see a 6'9" point guard before Magic? So
he made that what that is. I mean, he's amazing, and he's definitely a generational player, and definitely the best of this generation. But one of the things that annoys me, this is going to be my get off my lawn moment, is that everybody now thinks that now is the greatest ever. And a lot of people don't have reference. Like a lot of people that are out there, you know, the millennials on ESPN touting LeBron is the greatest ever. Most of them never even saw Jordan play. So how did they have a frame of reference?
Right.
So,
well,
guys
that I graduated with, you know, the only reason you think Jordan's the greatest is because you grew up watching him. And I'm nostalgic too, blah, blah, this. I'm like, no. I mean, if you watched basketball at all, it was a different game. Now, I understand that, you know, Jeff Hornacek was guarding Michael Jordan in the NBA Finals. I get that, okay? Jeff Hornacek couldn't play dead in a cowboy movie in this NBA. I just don't see it. But the way that Michael played the game, as far as his ability to change the dynamic of a game by himself at any given moment, is my end all be all, Heather, for Michael Jordan, is that he literally took over an entire game and beat a team of the greatest players of all time in that practice with the dream team. When that team was losing and Michael took over and he said, no, we ain't losing this game against Magic, against Bird, against all. I mean, Barkley was on the other team. When you talk about the greatest 25 players of all time, all 5 of those guys are on it. He took over the game and won it. That's the argument that I make. And that's the only argument that needs to be made.
Well, and he did things and saw the game in a way that had never been done before. And without his vision and his ability to do things and to see things in the game that had been done before, there would have not been any Kobe, any LeBron. Those people grew up watching Michael's game and emulating Michael's game. If he hadn't done that beforehand, we wouldn't have even have had LeBron, because the game wouldn't have gone in that direction.
There you go.
Absolutely.
So that's my soapbox. So
now,
there you go.
We can talk NASCAR now.
Well, and Jordan's a nice
mainly the one thing.
NASCAR.
That's right, because he is a NASCAR owner.
Yeah.
Before we get into the clash, I just got to ask you about Kyle Busch. You picked him to win. I don't think
he did not, in fact, win.
He did not win, but he did. In fact, he did win an all expenses paid trip for 3.5 years to a Mexican jail.
But he's winning
what's the
because
deal
he's not
there?
in jail.
That's right. He is not in jail and probably will never be in jail. If let's
Yeah,
be
because I don't think
honest.
he's ever going back to Mexico.
No,
Right
he's
there.
definitely not doing that.
So we don't extradite.
I mean, honestly,
It's my
not.
understanding that he is not for this kind of an offense, that he wouldn't go to prison unless he tried to go back to Mexico. So, I mean, because really it's possession, right? I mean, it's gun possession. We wouldn't extradite somebody back to Mexico for some, well, I guess that depends on the president. So that's probably not a fair statement, but generally we don't extradite for minor crimes like that. So no, not unless,
and we wouldn't ask for someone from Mexico to be sent to the United States to go to jail over a gun charge, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So, but the bullets he had in his bag were hollow points.
That's a little interesting.
I'm trying to figure out what the need.
What was he going to shoot?
What's he doing?
Yeah.
The whole
so
thing.
Wild.
The whole thing is so messy, and it's so funny because I was actually driving back from Charlotte when this whole thing was breaking, and a friend of mine sent me a text. I was like, no, you have to read everything to me on the phone now because I'm driving and I need to know and I can't read right now. So, but it's crazy just because, I mean, I guess he feels like he needs protection. You know, it was pointed out on one thread that I was at that he was in the Mall of America when that shooting happened about a year ago with his a little over a year ago with his wife and his son Brexton, and that was a very traumatic experience for him. So I guess he feels like he needs protection. The hollow points are a little odd because I don't think that's necessary, but there's also security firms and things when you have money, as he does, that you can hire.
Yeah.
So you yourself don't have to. It's kind of like if you got money.
He didn't go to the store and buy those, probably.
Well, he might have. He actually might have. And actually, he probably didn't buy them because one of his team sponsors, Bass Pro, so they were probably just given to him. If I'm being completely fair, Johnny Morris probably just handed him a box of hollow points. But it's kind of like when somebody gets pulled over for a DUI and they have a lot of money. It's like, why are you driving? I mean, if Kyle Busch really feels like he needs protection, my question would be, why don't you have a bodyguard? And I know you don't want to have that. It doesn't feel real private, but these are the reasons why you do that. Why you have a body man, why you have a bodyguard, why you have somebody around you is that you don't have to get busted for bringing the gun into Mexico. So, I don't know. I don't know enough about it to talk on an authority, but Kyle Busch has never been one that's been known for making great decisions.
It's just wild.
Yeah, it is crazy.
It really is.
Oh man, I had to get that out there before we got too far into. But speaking of Kyle Busch, he's a little hot after the Busch clash, and probably rightfully so. My question
he certainly found better than Bubba did from a similar incident. So,
is it a good thing that there's a week between the two?
Yes. The way that the format is now, yes, definitely, because it gives. But I think most people, I mean, Kyle is an emotional person. But I think that, you know, most people take the clash for what it is. It's not a points race. It's just an exhibition race. You get mad in the moment because you're racers and you're competitors, but I don't think they hold grudges over races like this as much as they would if this happens next week in Daytona, where they feel like they were purposely wrecked or something along those lines. So, you know, I'll be honest with you. I thought the racing was pretty good, but I think that there were moments where people were losing their mind a little bit. Like, it got overly aggressive at times where the race didn't need to be that aggressive. And so, I don't know if I was a big fan of this year's. I like the idea of the Coliseum. I love the short track. I love everything about it, but I don't know if the actual race was that great to me, unfortunately.
It just feels like too many of those cars on that short of a track. I don't know. It's just a lot.
But you know, there were fewer cars this year than there were last year, and more wrecks. So I don't know if it was the cars or the people driving the cars.
I will say this. I watched a lot of it. Of course, there's 37 heats and then the feature, but the move Kevin Harvick made to get into the feature was just phenomenal. Again, with the he just held back and let the guys in front of him. Chase Elliott was bumping and moving, and next thing you know, those two guys kind of got into it, and Harvick just goes right around. It was fantastic.
It was a very much a veteran move, right? He recognized that there were two young guys acting like knuckleheads in front of him, and he just stood there and wait for them to wreck each other that he would get in, and that's basically what happened. He sat there and watched themselves out, and then cruised into the feature. I mean, that's a guy that's been driving for 20 years.
Did he wave at him?
I hope he did. It was a thing of beauty. It really was. But yeah, you know, a lot of folks, and you said you weren't necessarily as big of a fan, but a lot of folks were kind of clamoring to get this thing back to Daytona. And I don't like the idea of it being at a super speedway. I mean, I love the idea. Maybe not a track that short, but a smaller track. If you say you take North Wilkesboro out of the All-Star race and you move it there or something, or another place where, you know, maybe there's some history. It just, I don't know.
I think it's going to move around. I do. I mean, attendance and viewership was down this year, so I think this might be the last year that it's at the Coliseum.
Okay.
I don't know that, but that's just my thought on the issue. But I hate it as a super speedway. Super speedway racing has its place in NASCAR, but for an exhibition race to start the season, it has very little to do with the drivers, everything to do with the cars and luck. And so, I mean, there are some drivers that work really hard and are better at it than others, but at the end of the day, it's still like rolling the dice. And that, to me, is not a great way to start the season. That's why I like it like this, because it's more about driver skill, whether it's on a short track or an intermediate track, something. But plus you can't really, are you really going to ask somebody to go down to Daytona, come back, because the Super Bowl's now in the way? No offense to the Super Bowl. Chiefs are in it. Go Chiefs. But it's in the way, right? So they have to run it. Then they would go back to Charlotte and then back to Daytona. That logistically doesn't even make sense. If you're going to go somewhere different.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I said, you know, if it's a historical track or if it's just,
let's start a campaign.
It just
right
doesn't
now
need to be
Nashville.
Well, and you know, we were talking about, I was talking about that with someone yesterday, and I love that idea, because you could run the heats on the short track on the quarter mile on the inside, and then run the feature on the outside track, which would be really cool, because it's two different things.
Or run it at the fairgrounds. My only thing is
that's what I'm talking about, at the fairgrounds, because they have the quarter mile track at the fairgrounds, and then they have the bigger track, which, by the way, is bigger than Bristol. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Bristol's pretty small. It just looks huge because it's got like such a huge Coliseum, but the track itself is not that much. It's a half mile. It's not very long. The only thing about Nashville is the weather, right? I mean, Nashville in February can be,
who knows,
not fun. Not fun. I mean, that's
or it can be today where it's 65 and perfect.
Right. I think that's why they've tended to do California and Florida, because the weather's much more predictable in those areas this time of year. Although last year, I was just reminiscing with somebody I went to Daytona with last year. It was 30 degrees the day that we got to go to the beach. So, which was cold.
We could always run it in Mexico City, but then Kyle Busch wouldn't be able to
I was going to say, but then Kyle can't go.
Sorry, I had to get it in there.
That's too soon.
That's what comedians refer to as a callback.
It's not too soon. I mean, Kyle, and the way he's behaved, he's deserving every bit of this. I like Kyle. I've never had an issue with Kyle, but he certainly has not been the kindest to people over the years.
Well, anyway, well, we get a week off, so we get a chance to kind of wind down, get those tempers to kind of cool off. And obviously next week in Daytona, it's going to be all week long. It's just like the Super Bowl. It's Super Bowl part 2 for a lot of folks, and I'm looking forward to it. Let me ask you this, because I haven't seen anything and I'm just curious. Is there any chance that traditional qualifying ever returns
To
just to NASCAR? Like they're to
like
me,
single car one
Yeah.
lap qualifying. Well, they do it at some tracks now.
right?
They do single car qualifying at Bristol. I think. Are you talking about just without the eliminations?
Just to qualifying is not the same as it was, say, obviously pre-Brian France. So I'm curious if that type of that single car
They brought back
time trial.
Post COVID last year. They did single car qualifying at all of the tracks, I think, except for the road courses where they did the group qualifying was the only ones. But they did round. You don't like the rounds, like the elimination rounds. You just want everybody to go out there and run one lap.
I want a time trial.
Well, that's what they're doing, like single lap, and then taking the top. I think they take the top 8. I think it might be dependent on the track, but they're somewhere around the top 8, and then they go out and run another single lap. I mean, that's
give me 2 laps and let's go.
That's probably never coming back. They are doing the single car, the qualifying, but I mean, I think the bigger issue is that practice is pretty much gone. They are not doing any practice at Daytona, with the exception of one practice on Saturday. So they're going to do qualifying and the duels without a single lap of practice.
That is the practice.
Yeah, except for if you're like Travis Pastrana and never been behind the wheel of a Cup car, that will be interesting for him.
Poor fella.
Yeah. So, and trying to make the race, right? Because he's got to race his way in. I don't think that the single. I mean, they're trying to make everything a show. Everything's got to be a show now. Right. I know you like single car qualifying, but there's not a lot of drama and it ain't real exciting. So, I don't think that type of qualifying will ever come back, if that's your question. It's gone. Yeah. It's gone with Brian France.
Well, we'll take that. If that's what it takes to get rid of him, we'll take that. You take the good with the bad.
We'll make that trade.
We'll make the trade. Heather, always a pleasure. We appreciate you being with us and look forward to talking Daytona next week. And we'll see.
You don't want to talk about my Chiefs at all?
We'll talk about it. We'll see. We'll see. The Chiefs, if the Chiefs win, we'll definitely talk about them. If they lose, we'll let you, just
we'll leave you alone.
Yeah, we'll leave you alone and let you talk race.
3 Super Bowls in 5 years and 5 straight AFC championship. Or sorry, 3 Super Bowls in 4 years and 5 straight AFC championship appearances. No matter what happens on Sunday, it's a good time to be a Chiefs fan.
No question there.
Enjoy.
Fun as always, guys.
We'll talk to you next week. That's Heather Williams, WCYB TV in Bristol. We will take a break, and when we come back, we will talk a little women's hoops as the drama. Talk about drama, plenty of it. So stick around. We'll talk about it right after this on Main Street Sports Today.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back into Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Mo Patton, Chris Yow here with you on this Wednesday edition. It's Wild and Wacky Wednesday, still to come, the weirdest and wildest news from across the world. And I have a new graphic to go with, so you know how the little newspaper. So we got the newspaper with the headline and a photo. I've got that in the slideshow now. So there will be some visual aids to go along with Wild and Wacky this week.
Lord.
Hopefully I'll be able to continue it, but I got bored today and I was like, hey, let's see what we can do. So yeah, it should be fun. But that is all coming up right now. Mo, a little drama in the world of women's hoops as there is a report out there. Now, this was a leaked report. This is not that WNBA hasn't announced this. They haven't even confirmed it, that the Las Vegas Aces are potentially under investigation for illegally paying players under the table and circumventing the salary cap as agreed to in the collective bargaining agreement by the players. Now, my question is, if you just paid them, we wouldn't have this problem.
That's why I'm not terribly bothered by the allegations.
No, not
because they're probably not being paid what they should be anyway. So, and I don't want to plagiarize, but they wouldn't have to do this if they were being paid what they were worth.
So, if you would just let them be paid whatever the market says they're worth, then wouldn't have this issue. Now, I will say this. It kind of harkens me back to the old Arena Football 2 days where in AF2, players were paid a salary of $200 per week. And if you won, you got a $50 bonus. That was your salary. Okay. And the Quad City Steamwheelers, who went 18-0 in year one, were paying players under the table. And in the kind of OG NIL down in Huntsville, any Tennessee Valley Viper that scored a touchdown and did their celebration or whatever in front of the Jerry Damson Honda sign got an extra $50
from Jerry Damson
from
Honda.
Jerry Damson Honda. and honestly, I hated it because not everybody was cheating and we weren't cheating. So I didn't feel like we were trying in Birmingham. And that kind of upset me. But you can't be mad at the players for getting the money that they are owed and deserve.
If somebody's willing to give them the money, are they not supposed to take it?
Well, and that's a great question because they are saying that the player would be penalized in this potential scenario, and I'm just not sure. No, I can't. I can't take that $100,000. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm taking the money.
Pay the players.
Pay the players. That way you ain't got to worry about it. How about that? How about that? Cash me outside. Okay. So anyway, I just thought that was.
It's an intriguing situation. Yeah.
We talked about it.
We talked about Candace Parker leaving the Chicago Sky and
Alicia
taking
Clark.
the league minimum, and Alicia Clark leaving the Washington Mystics, and
a couple.
Now maybe it makes a little bit more sense.
A couple big name players headed to New York.
Breanna Stewart
and the shooter. Crap, off the top
Courtney
of my head.
Vandersloot. Yeah.
You don't think that they're probably doing the same thing?
So maybe it's not just the Aces. The Aces owned by Raiders owner Mark Davis,
which is phenomenal.
When you sent me that article and it had the picture of Mark Davis and that god awful haircut, it's like, why are we running a picture of Mark Davis with this article? I mean, I know he's in Vegas. Well, then I went back and I read it, and I did not know he was the owner of the Aces.
Yeah, I was unaware.
But, suddenly it all makes sense. Just win, baby.
Just win, baby. That's all that matters. So there you go. Pro basketball, pro women's basketball, not the only place that there's some drama in women's hoops, though, because Geno Auriemma, after his nationally televised tirade with Holly Rowe
at halftime of the UT game.
I almost said Holly Warlick.
No, Holly Rowe.
With Holly Rowe at the halftime of the UT game has been. This is not the first time. It's not the second time. This is like the 20th time that he has gone off about how other teams are playing physically against his team. And he ends up getting a technical foul, throwing a water bottle onto the court in their loss to South Carolina a couple of nights ago, because his player was coming off of a screen and he thought the defender was holding her. Never mind, the girl setting the screen, hip checked the defender. Never mind that. He throws his water bottle down onto the floor, just goes everywhere, gets a tech, all of that.
Well, he should.
As he should. And after the game, I don't think it was in the postgame presser. I think it was the next day. He goes off again on this whole tirade about how players are playing again, how defenders are physical or too physical. It's not even basketball anymore. And Dawn Staley said, you know what? I'm tired of your baby back BS. We ain't listening to it anymore. And she basically said that Geno's a crybaby. And she's not wrong.
Speaking on her Tuesday call-in show, when her team has success, quote, we're called something other than players that are locked in. They play the right way and approach it the right way, whether they win or lose. We don't denounce anybody's play. They are always uplifting the game of women's basketball. And when we were getting our heads beat in by UConn for all those years, I said nothing.
That's the thing, is basketball is not a non-contact sport. And if you think it is, then one, you're not playing the game that it's supposed to be played. But for so long, and this is exactly what I said in the Tennessee game. For so long, UConn has gotten away with playing that way. And now that the script has flipped, Geno's mad about it.
Sure is.
You're not on the mountaintop anymore. And you're not the golden child that gets protected no matter what.
And he's struggling with it. Article in the Greenville News goes a little deeper than this article on ESPN, I guess.
Well, let's hear it.
After the game, Geno made the comments, I just couldn't keep any longer. I just couldn't keep quiet any longer. The technical was stupid, but I didn't say anything for a long, long, long time. If you want to bring his post player in and you can see the bruises on her body, it's just appalling what teams do to her now. It's not basketball anymore. I don't know what it is, but it's not basketball. There were 44 fouls called in the game, 23 against UConn, 21 against South Carolina. The most fouls that have been called against South Carolina in any game this season.
That sounds, and I'm not the foul's got to be equal for it to be.
No.
That's not who I am.
Well, I mean, fouls aren't necessarily going to be equal. They shouldn't. There shouldn't be an expectation that fouls be equal.
Right.
If one team is playing more physically than the other one, then one team's going to get called for more fouls than the other.
Unless they make an adjustment. Which
Don't.
rarely happens,
You're
by
right.
the way.
We've been called so many things, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it because I coach some of the best human beings that the game has ever had. We've been called thugs. We've been called prisoners. We've been called monkeys. We take this very seriously, being the number one team in the country, being a team that young people will look at and want to emulate. We set the example of how you do it and do it the right way. I'm not going to stand down when you're going to denounce how we play, because you're denouncing our national championship. You're denouncing the product that we put on the floor. You're denouncing families. You're denouncing our achievements. And I'm not going to stand by and allow people just to say that.
Hey, look. Nor would I ask you to.
We
Coach
play in
Staley.
the SEC, and that's how we play, and we're not going to change it.
And that's the thing. That's why the SEC is the strongest basketball conference in women's basketball. Because that basketball is a physical game, and the SEC makes it a physical game. And look, UConn plays physical. I'm not saying that UConn lost by what? 5? That game was it 81-77, something like that.
Something like that. 81-76, something like that.
It was pretty tight.
81-77, yeah.
Okay, so it's a pretty tight game, and it kind of makes you feel better about the loss to UConn
for the Lady
for
Vols.
Tennessee, if you into comparing scores and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But they were super physical in that first quarter against Tennessee, and then they started getting called for it in the second quarter and that sort of thing. So, it's going to be a physical game. Learn to play it. I mean, embrace it. It's the way you like to play anyway. Just quit crying about it. It is what it is.
He's crying because he's losing.
He's crying because he's losing. That's it. He's not a very gracious loser. And never has.
Now, to be fair, he hadn't had a whole lot of experience with it. Full disclosure.
Sure. And I think that's one of the reasons that he's not a very good loser, because he expects to. And look, that's part of it. People who are poor losers just expect to win so much that they cannot deal with it.
Yeah, but you still have to deal with it.
But you have to, especially if you're the coach.
Well,
the coach sets the tone for the team. And look, if you get angry and you get frustrated, and sometimes that works as a motivational tool, but if that's just how you are all the time, the players are going to emulate that going forward. And this is not going to be a team that reaches the NCAA Final Four, because they're going to be out there griping at refs during the middle of the game and get run out of
call that they don't
and get run out of the building in the Sweet 16 by somebody. That's what's going to happen. Anyway.
Yep.
There you go. That's the tea piping hot in women's basketball right now. We've got a great next few minutes, about half hour left in the show, and Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian is going to join us here in just a few moments to talk about Ja Morant and his comments about the Grizzlies being the most hated team in the league. Are they? Aren't they? We'll ask Drew. And how does it feel to get a win? It's been a while.
Goodness, it has been a while.
Looking forward to that. We talk to Drew right after this on Main Street Sports Day, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Y'all stick around.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
It's time to get tickets for the Nash Vegas Casino Night at Auction presented by King Jewelers. It's Wednesday, February the 8th at Bridgestone Arena. This year's theme is reverse retro, so break out the Musters jerseys and Y2K fashion. Challenge Roman Yossi to a game of blackjack, or join Ryan McDonough as he rolls the dice at the craps table. Mix and mingle with the players and Preds personalities while bidding on auction items and tasting food from local restaurants. All proceeds benefit the Preds Foundation. Visit NashvillePredators.com/gala.
Walmart Supply Chain is hiring in Lebanon. Earn up to $22.25 an hour when you join our new fulfillment center. Enjoy competitive pay and premium perks, including 100% paid college tuition, 401k match, flexible schedules, a free Walmart Plus membership that includes discounts, and free Paramount Plus. paid time off, and so much more. Fulfilling work starts right here. Text JOIN to 240-240. That's JOIN 240-240 to apply now.
Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yow and Mo Patton coming to you here on this Wednesday edition as we are getting ready to talk a little bit of Memphis Grizzlies. A lot of basketball today. We've been talking football a lot this week for it to not be football season. No, we haven't talked much about the Super Bowl, but we will.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get there tomorrow and Friday for sure. Looking forward to that. But we are going to go west, young man, to Memphis, where Daily Memphis Grizzlies beat writer Drew Hill joins us to talk about the most hated team in the NBA, according to John Morant. I've been on social media. I see some of the hate. He may not be wrong. Drew, your thoughts?
No, they definitely have their detractors. I think that's part of what happens when you become a good team. It's part of what happens when you talk trash, and the Grizzlies are honest. They'll tell you they talk more trash than the average NBA team. It was interesting because Jenkins, the coach, got asked about this yesterday before the game. He said, this is kind of part of our evolution. This is the next step for us. Like, we have that target on us now. We're not sneaking up on anybody anymore. When you talk the way that we talk, we have to find a way to back it up. And so, yeah, I think I don't know if I can go quite as far as to say they're the most hated team, but they definitely have people that dislike them, and other teams definitely dislike them. So I do believe all that to be true. It's funny, I asked Brevin Knight, former Grizzlies player, good NBA player back in the day. He sits next to me at the Grizzlies games. He does TV for Valley Sports. And I said, what do you make of this hate thing? And I thought he made a really good point to me. He said, when you're the underdog, talking trash is cool because everybody's cheering for you because everybody likes the underdog. But when you're the team that's finally arrived and you're expected to be one of the best teams in the West and you're talking trash and you're not playing well, it's not so cool anymore. And so you get a lot more hate. And, I think that it is I can understand why people don't like the Grizzlies, but everybody loves a good villain in the NBA. Why don't the Grizzlies just lean into it and just be that sort of team? That's how I sort of break everything
I
down.
feel like they pretty well are leaning into it, Drew, but I saw a tweet yesterday at Amir Talai, Talai. I'm not sure who he is, but he's got a blue check. But it says, when you want all the smoke, but when it comes, you coughing and wheezing and asking why your eyes are burning. I mean, what was it, a year ago, 2 years ago, when the Grizzlies declared that we want all the smoke? Well, here it is. Here it is. Put on your masks.
The problem is that the smoke they're getting is from the dumpster fire they've been over the last 2 weeks.
Or 3.
Yeah, no, winning basketball games fixes a lot, I think.
Right.
It really does. And I'm kind of – I was the one that asked Ja about the hated thing, right? This is something that got brought up in Cleveland last week. They lost a game to the Cavs. That was the game Dillon got ejected and Donovan Mitchell got ejected. And a Cavs reporter, if I knew his name, I would mention it, but it asked Ja about, about being hated. And he had said, we're the most hated team in the NBA. And he said, why? He said, I don't know. They just don't like us. He said, well, why is that? And he said, because we don't like them, So I wouldn't say that they've completely backtracked or they're even complaining about being so hated as much as Ja was trying to make his point of this is why we're hated. Go look at social media. Now, he did remove the comments on his tweets last night after the game. He was saying it's lame to boo players. Grizzlies fans did, or a section of Grizzlies fans did boo Dillon Brooks during the game last night. So there's just a lot of adversity. There's a lot of turmoil going on. It seems like, things just keep popping up. And as you mentioned, if you just win basketball games, I think a lot of this goes away. They need the All-Star break desperately, though, at this point. Like you're a few games away. Just get a quick break, try to regroup, come back and see what you got.
Speaking of Dillon Brooks, any chance that he's on this team past the trade deadline?
Yeah, I think there's still a good chance that Dillon Brooks is on the team past the trade deadline. You got to be careful being reactionary, I think, in a long NBA season to a bad stretch. Like Dillon Brooks' last 15 games have been the worst 15 games he's had shooting in his career. He would tell you and be honest that he's in like a crazy slump, a bad spell at the moment. He's not this bad of a shooter usually, but he has not been very good. And Grizzlies fans have sort of lost patience with it, or a large chunk of Grizzlies fans have lost patience with it. But you can't underestimate the fact that the Grizzlies themselves, that locker room, has a lot of respect for Dillon Brooks because he does the things that the other guys don't want to do. He defends the other team's best player every single night. He is the heartbeat of the team. He's not afraid to do the dirty work, and he's the agitator on their team. And he matters from an emotional perspective. And so, and again, like he's going to be an unrestricted free agent this summer. So you do somewhat risk him walking away for nothing if you don't trade him by that point. But it didn't sound like earlier this season the Grizzlies had any intention of trading Dillon Brooks. I'm not saying that they're not going to. I think certainly if they're trying to make a move for OG Anunoby or another upgrade on the wing, I don't think Dillon Brooks would be a deal breaker in something like that. But I think that there's still a very good chance he could be on the team past the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think that his free agent status was kind of why I was curious. But if the Grizzlies feel like they can retain him for the future, I obviously think Dillon Brooks has some improving to do on the offensive side of the floor. But with all of the other things, the intangibles that he brings, and of course the defensive side of the basketball, I think you got to have a guy like that no matter what offensive, what he may or may not provide on the offensive end. That being said, you got to have a little self-awareness too, and not try to do too much on the offense when you're not having a good stretch. So there's that. But I mean, I was just curious, and I'm glad to hear that because I do think that Dillon Brooks, as a Grizzly, just makes a lot of sense. On top of that, on top of the 15 games that Dillon Brooks has had poor, the Grizzlies just haven't been playing well, but they're still right there in the thick of things. They're sitting in, almost at the top of their conference. They're in a good position, and if you're going to have a stretch like this, better now than later.
Yeah. They need to get healthy first and foremost.
Yes.
It's incredible the difference that Steven Adams makes when he's available for the Grizzlies, because they are the number one team in rebounding in the entire NBA when Steven Adams is available. Even when Steven Adams is available and he's not on the court, the Grizzlies are the 28th best team in rebounding. So they really struggle to rebound without him. As good as Jaren Jackson Jr. has been over this stretch, a first-time All-Star, he's playing incredible on defense. I think he's actually very deserving of being an NBA All-Star, although I know some people felt other players got snubbed. He's not been a great rebounder historically in his career, and so they are missing a piece without Steven Adams. They really need to get Steven Adams healthy. They played games without Desmond Bane during this losing stretch. They've played games without Ja during this losing stretch. When their starting five is healthy, this team is pretty good, but their depth this year has really hurt them. It hasn't been the same as it was a season ago. And so when everybody's not together, everybody's not playing, this is a team that has really struggled, and especially struggled to close games. Another big part of this losing streak is that they have not been able to get over the hump. They did last night, but in these fourth quarters, they're the number one scoring team in the third quarter in the entire NBA. They're 28th in the NBA in fourth quarter scoring. So they've lost a lot of close games. They've come up just short in a lot of games. They haven't been healthy. They've had a lot of things not going their way. They had, off the court stuff with Ja. They've had Dylan Brooks being suspended and missing a game. And they had the little thing with Shannon Sharp. Like it's been chaotic, hectic, whatever word you want to use over these last couple of weeks. They got to find a way to.
And they're 33-21.
Yeah, and find a way to get it together and get back to winning.
Yeah. Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. You can follow him on Twitter at @DrewHill_DM. Drew, what was the reaction in Memphis, in the Grizzlies locker room, that type thing, over the news that Kyrie Irving is coming to Dallas? And what's the word on the possibility of Westbrook making a move? I'm sitting here looking at a tweet from Sham Charania that Westbrook could wind up in Utah.
As far as the Kyrie thing goes, I don't think, from a Grizzlies perspective, they haven't talked much about it. The players haven't talked about it, or the coaching staff. But just the sense that I've gotten from people around the team is like, it's a pretty big risk by the Dallas Mavericks to make that move, not because Kyrie Irving has a reputation of playing for teams that have fallen apart, but because they traded away some of their best perimeter players. That's a team that's already not very deep, the Mavericks. Do you want to just play take turns ISO ball in the playoffs? I just don't know if there's a ton of belief that it's going to work. It's a risk. It might work. It may work brilliantly. I don't think we'll know until those two guys get on the court. But I wouldn't expect anything the Grizzlies do to be like reactionary of a team in our division made this move. We got to go do something too. As far as the Westbrook stuff goes, I'm kind of following that a lot, the same way that you guys are. I just saw that tweet as well. I think, that if the Lakers were able to add Jared Vanderbilt and Mike Conley, or looks like they might make a play for D'Angelo Russell, like those would be Malik Beasley. Those would all be upgrades from what they have. I think that would definitely make the Lakers a better team. They're probably going to have to give up a pick to get rid of Westbrook, to get off of his contract. So that's interesting. That's something I'll definitely keep an eye on as well.
When you look at this, obviously, like you said, All-Star break coming up, you look at the second half of the season, do you feel, well, I say second half, the All-Star break is
it's
in a
not
weird
the
place.
Halfway point. Yeah.
It feels like it. It feels
the
like
backside of the season, you guys have to find a way to one, get healthy, but and I say you guys, the Grizzlies, if you're the Grizzlies, you have to find a way to be competitive in the Western Conference against teams that you're supposed to beat. And, this team has kind of struggled to do that. And is that a concern? Beating the teams that you're supposed to beat, they lost to the Raptors, even Eastern Conference wise. Mm-hmm. It just feels like it's kind of it's been a problem winning the games you're supposed to win.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely a concern. And I don't know if it's as much conference based as it is. This team has some serious flaws that probably need to be addressed, or they need to find a way to turn it around. I mean, Taylor Jenkins said it last night. The elephant in the room is that they are not a good half-court offense team. Like when they cannot get stops, turn teams over, get out and run, use Ja's athleticism and the athleticism of the other guys, they're just not a good half-court offense team, especially without Steven Adams, who's one of the best screeners in the NBA, clearing the lane for Ja and setting up opportunities. He's a very underrated passer too. And also getting them second chances to score in the half court with those offensive rebounds. That's a big hole. The other thing that I think that they've really struggled with, especially during this stretch when they've, like you said, lost to some teams that you would expect them to beat, is three-point shooting. You cannot be a three-point shooting team that is well below 30%, which is what they've been since the start of the new year, and expect to win a lot of basketball games. I haven't checked this stat in a while, but if the Grizzlies get to 10 threes, more like around 75%, I believe, of the time, they win. If they don't reach 10 threes, they have a large losing record this season. They're not a good three-point shooting team either. Dylan Brooks been really bad three-point shooting. Ja Morant is an okay three-point shooter, but he's not great. Desmond Bane has been fantastic from the three-point line, but he's pretty much your only option. All the other guys on the wing, your backups coming into the game have really struggled to score, struggled to give you much of anything. They just sent Zaire Williams, who's a top 10 pick a couple years ago, down to the G League to have him develop because they're getting nothing on the back end there. They need three-point shooting. They need some half-court offense. They have some glaring holes that they definitely need to address that they're working on. Is this something that they're going to panic and say, we got to make these moves at the trade deadline because we see these holes and it's not working out? I don't think so. I think that they're still pretty patient as a front office, but they're very aware of what these problems are that have cost them a lot of these games. And it shows up, as I mentioned earlier, in these fourth quarters. Like when you can't close games because the game slows down and the possessions become even more valuable, which is the way the playoffs are, by the way. If you can't close games in those situations, like it just further points out these issues that have been created so far for the Grizzlies. They're fixable problems, I think. I don't know how much better of a three-point shooting team this can be, but at least in the half court, you can find different sets, and getting healthy can really help you. But yeah, I mean, this is a team that's got a lot to work on. This is a team that's still trying to find itself right now. You beat the Chicago Bulls last night, but by no means was it cheery in that locker room. Like Dylan Brooks was clearly upset that he was booed by the Memphis fans or some Memphis fans. Ja seemed sort of exhausted of that entire situation that's taken place over the last few days and sort of frustrated. And they didn't play well, but they beat a bad Bulls team that didn't have DeMar DeRozan. And boy, they needed that one because it felt a little dire in that third quarter when they went down by 8. You're starting to wonder if this team was just broken and if they would be able to put it back together.
Speaking with Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. And Drew touched on it there. This team isn't very good in the half court. They don't knock down a whole lot of threes. They're not very effective from behind the arc. And when the postseason gets here, those are two things that are pretty vital to your success in a long series and that kind of thing. I mean, what is the prognosis for this team if they don't figure out a way to improve their half-court offense and their three-point shooting? And one of those you feel like maybe can be fixed, but the three-point shooting maybe not as much.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they're quite as bad as they've been three-point shooting. Since the start of the new year, they should improve a little bit. Water always finds its level. That's what Desmond Bane always tends to say whenever he goes into a shooting slump, is it'll come back around eventually. So you hope you get that. And then if you get Steven Adams back and you're a team that can dominate the paint the way that they did last year, like we're talking about their flaws, they do have a lot of strengths too. Like they're great at turning teams over. The number one defense in the NBA. Jaren Jackson Jr. is the best defensive player in the entire NBA. They have a lot of strengths to go with these weaknesses. But if you can't fix the half-court offense, like I don't know how I can see this team getting out of the second round of the playoffs. Right as it stood yesterday, I haven't checked the standings today. Like they would be playing the play-in game between the Timberwolves and the Warriors. Either one of those series is going to be – and the Timberwolves pushed the Grizzlies last year. We know that the Warriors have been there, done that before. That's a team that does shoot it really well from the three-point line. So, both of those series would be extremely concerning for the Grizzlies, especially if they can't fix these problems. So you ask what it may look like. I mean, it could be an earlier exit than they anticipated if they can't find answers or solutions to some of these things that have gone wrong. Good news is there's a lot of time to fix it still. And I don't think that they've lost any confidence or hope that it will come back around. if there's one great thing about this team that makes them might add to that hated category, is that they have this level of confidence that just does not go away no matter, how bad things may be at the moment. It may not be cheery and they may not be happy with the way that they're playing right now, but I don't think that they've really changed course on this season or what they believe they can accomplish this season just because, they've had a tough losing stretch.
Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian joining us here on Main Street Sports Day, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. If you're curious what a day in the life of a Memphis Grizzlies beat writer is, go follow him on TikTok. And make sure you pin that video.
I'm surprised you brought – so I sometimes use TikTok, but my girlfriend is like real into it. She's like wanting to start posting TikToks. And she was like, you spend so much time around these guys that people – you need to do it. You need to start posting. And so I did it. I did that. I posted it on TikTok, and I don't know how all these people are seeing it because I have like 3 followers, but somehow all these people have started to see this, whatever the algorithm is, and people keep bringing it up to me. I also posted one with Giraffe, the giraffe at the Memphis Zoo. I got 2 stuff over there.
You're contacting my phone, so I got it, from your contacts, Drew Hill. That's how I saw it.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
The algorithm pointed me to you because of your phone, your numbers in my phone. But it was interesting. I was like, hey, this is really cool. I mean, it was a great video. I thought it was really interesting, and then kind of getting to see a little behind the scenes. I thought it was really neat. So if you're out there and you want to go find out what it's like to be a day in the life, Drew's got a great TikTok on it. So, Drew, we appreciate you taking some time with us today, man. Really insightful stuff as always, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Anytime. I appreciate it.
We're going to take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. When we come back, it is the weirdest and wildest news from across the world. I've scoured the internet. I've found them all. We react to them next, right here. Stick around.
This is Chris Yow with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat.
She's on Thinking Out Loud, presented by Regions, and Out of Pocket with Alyssa Lang. It is, in fact, Alyssa Lang.
I'm a little nervous. I'm going to lower the bar for guests now.
Oh, no.
Apologies in advance. It sounds like
SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey.
Got that radio voice.
I know.
It's
a good sound.
for radio too.
As do we. And then here's the other thing. You guys, you're spot on with the name. Everybody wants to be on Main Street. Everybody wants to be on Main Street. So,
and we reach every main street in Middle Tennessee, Coach?
Yeah, that's it. So
Perfect.
when you are on Main Street and you are moving,
you gotta love it.
Like you're moving. I was impressed.
I'm glad someone. Oh, welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Mo Patton, Chris Yow here with you on this Wednesday. It's Wild and Wacky Wednesday, the weirdest and wildest news from across the world coming your way right now. Justin, you should be able to find those. Yeah, keep going. It looks like a newspaper. You won't be able to miss it. Look at there. Oklahoma top 10 matchup ends in a 4-2 decision. That's right. 4-2, the final score in that Weatherford, and I can't pronounce the other team's name, Anadarko. Anadarko tried to hold the ball. Weatherford 18-1 coming in. Anadarko not as good, but they were ranked in the top 10 of whatever. Yeah, so they tried to hold the ball and ended up throwing up a last-second heave from 3 to try to steal the win, and were unable to. A lot of folks saying that this should give, the shot clock thing some love. I think it's the perfect example of what you have always argued. Anadarko is not nearly as good as Weatherford. So
at the high school level, when you don't control your talent, whatever it takes for you to be able to win a ball game, and if you can get your team to execute well enough to play a 4-2 ball
and not
game,
turn it over.
And hey, if you want them to shoot the ball, go guard them.
Force them. Here's the thing. This is not the wild part. Yeah, 4-2. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The weirdest part of this, C.J. Nixon of Weatherford scored his 1,000th career point in this game.
Wow. Well, it will certainly be a memorable one.
Everyone in the country's talking about it. Everybody.
How many points did Nick score?
2. He just needed the 2.
So he was tied for the high score in the game.
He was, in fact.
Goodness gracious.
They all had a game high 2 points. All 3 scores. Oh man! All right, next is Sand.
That was a quick box score to type up.
Yeah, that would have been great. Sand from Brady's retirement video is now for sale on the internet, and the question that I have for you guys is, what is an event or something that you would buy something ridiculous from?
I just want to know how this sand is authenticated.
Okay, but I mean, you have to look at the video. You can see there's a video of them standing in that same spot. I mean, you can tell that those are the same 2 buildings there on the left, right? You can kind of tell the one on the right, so it's pretty close. But what's something ridiculous that you like, a sporting moment that you would buy something like dirt or grass or whatever? Because remember they were doing that for Tennessee, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee Titans Super Bowl.
A Super Bowl?
I would buy anything. I would buy paper towels used.
If the Braves had clinched in Atlanta, I probably would buy some, Truist Field dirt or grass. But since they clinched in Houston,
you don't want Houston's
I
dirt?
don't know that I necessarily do. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know that there's anything that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's not. I'm not so big of a sports fan that I would need that kind of memorabilia.
Right.
Although I do have a piece of the turf from when the Steel Dogs and the Vipers played, and the Steel Dogs won for the first time in Birmingham. But it was kind of just laying there, and I picked it up. I didn't buy it. They let us on the field after the game because we're the fan club. It's a Stream Dog fan club. And finally, we have my favorite thing of the week. This may be the greatest story. Keith Stonehouse let Mason here use his cell phone to play a game. He was surprised when a virtual smorgasbord of food from several restaurants arrived. That's right. He used his cell phone to play the game, except that he also ordered $1,000 in food. The boy's mother, Kristen Stonehouse, told the Associated Press on Thursday that Grubhub has reached out to the family and offered them a $1,000 gift card. The company also is considering using the family in an online promotional campaign. Stonehouse said he was alone with his son while his wife was at the movies when Mason ordered jumbo shrimp, salads, shawarma. I have no idea what that is. And chicken pita sandwiches, chili cheese fries, and other foods that one Grubhub driver after another delivered to their Chesterfield Township home.
That's pretty amazing.
He said, I don't really find it funny yet, but I can laugh with people a little bit. It's a lot of money, and it kind of came out of nowhere. He said that his son ordered from so many places that Chase Bank sent him a fraud alert, declining a $439 order from Happy's Pizza. Is there a place you could order $1,000 in food from?
I'd have to think about it, but yeah, probably.
I mean, like this weekend, I could probably order $1,000 of B-dubs or something.
I don't know if I could order $1,000 B-dubs.
I mean, I'd have to have friends, right? You, Justin?
What friends? What do you people? Y'all have friends?
Y'all have friends? Y'all are getting paid?
Wait, we all have friends?
Yeah. I tell you what, if you order enough wings these days,
yeah,
in this economy,
they're $1 a piece,
pretty quick. Yeah,
if not more.
Yeah. Exactly. You just get like a couple friends, which I have.
You definitely, which I definitely have. I definitely have friends, I swear.
Different school, but they're there.
They go to a different school. You wouldn't know them.
Yeah.
Oh, that is weird. Wild and wacky news here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. We'll be back tomorrow at 2 o'clock, Coach's Corner, and much more. So stick around and hang out with us all day long tomorrow, starting at 2 o'clock. Until then, we say adios, Kyle Busch.